Last question. In Matthew 24:40, it says, one person was taken and the other was left. Is this a reference to the rapture? If not, what is it? Which person was taken? The righteous person or the unrighteous? I recently heard a couple of statements that the unrighteous one was taken out of the world unto judgment, which is against everything I've heard before. If that's the case, what would the reason be to have tribulation? Okay, the first part of your question is clear in my mind. The second part of the question is not so clear, and so let me just address the first part of the question first. All right, so, Matthew 24 is obviously a passage that has been used by some pre-trib premillennials to support their view. Not all, but some. And so here's the verse, of course, Matthew 24, verse 40 says, then two men will be in the field, one will be taken, one will be left. Now, if you back up and get the context,
Right.
Jesus talks about the lesson of the fig tree. Watch so you'll know the signs of the time. But then he says in verse 36, but concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven nor the Son. Of course, he's referring to his second coming, but the Father only. For as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be of the Son of Man. For in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day when Noah entered the ark. And they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. So will be the coming of the Son of Man. So those who are being taken away in this passage, those who are being swept away are those who are being swept away under judgment. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the context of the verse. Yep. He says, and they were unaware. That's talking about the people other than Moses and his family. These are the people outside the ark. Mm-hmm. They are the they. And they were unaware, those outside the ark, until the flood came and swept them all away. Swept them away in judgment. Then he says, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. Then he explains, then two will be in the field, and one will be taken, and one will be left. Yeah. So it appears that the taking away is a taking away unto judgment.
Yes.
Not rapture. Mm-hmm. Okay? And the purpose of tribulation, well, James tells us the purpose of tribulation. Count it all joy, brothers, when you encounter various trials and of various kinds, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. You ask here if the righteous person. I have recently heard a couple of statements that the unrighteous one was taken out of the world under judgment, which is against everything I've heard before. Well, I think if you look at the text, it's obvious that the ones being taken away are those being taken away to judgment.
I was just going to say, and like you said, that people often use that as a proof text for a rapture, like a secret
for a
rapture.
They'll say, "Oh, the believers are being raptured up," but he's not talking about Noah.
Right.
He's talking about the unbelievers. Being swept away by the flood.
Yep.
So it's a sweeping away unto judgment.
Yep.
And you say, if this is the case, what would be the reason to have tribulation? Well, in my understanding, the purpose of tribulation is the Lord purifying His church.
Yep. And
continuing to give lost sinners opportunity to repent and trust in Christ before it's too late.
Yep.
So anyway, I believe personally that Jesus in this passage is referring not only, but I believe he is referring to the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70, which would be a true preterist interpretation. But I'm not a true preterist, and so I believe it has a now but not yet tension to it. I believe that Jesus is referring to the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70, but I believe ultimately, Jesus was referring to the events preceding, or not preceding, but the events that happened at the second coming of Christ.
Yep.
Okay, so there are our answers for today. Again, thank you for your answers.
Yep.
Until we meet again, serve the King.